How lean is lean enough? Most people who are chasing, like, essentially trying to lose body fat or feel good in their own skin and mostly feel good in their own clothes, to get to 10% body fat, they're going to have to do future of content creation. Where do you see it going? What's your strategy? Content creation is always going to be about providing value to people. So if anything that I've learned over the past 10 plus years of making content is that what you think about the role of artificial intelligence within the fitness industry. I know that artificial intelligence is going to
Hi everyone, welcome to Inside the Inspired. My name is Jonathan Cohen and I have a quick favor to ask you. If you're getting any value out of this content, please take a second to subscribe to the channel. You help us reach more people and you can also stay up to date with all the latest content coming your way. Thank you so much for tuning in. I'll catch you in the episode.
How lean is lean enough? How do we take our mindset and channel our heart set into a more compassionate and effective mission through fitness, through nutrition, but something that I personally struggled with through body image? And the individual you're about to meet, a multiple-time CrossFit Games athlete, coach, creator, father, husband, entrepreneur. This individual has seen the spectrum mentally, emotionally, and physically of how far you can push the body, how the mind can play tricks on you, and here to share some immense strategies with us today on how maybe you can optimize your mindset and heart set to start to appreciate a bit more of who you are. Please welcome to the show, the one, the only Mr. Marcus Philly. How are you today, sir?
Fantastic. I love that introduction. Thank you so much for that. And yeah, if I can shed light on any of those topics and help somebody, then I feel like I'm in the right place.
Prime place to start should be with that question that I asked at the top. How lean is lean enough? How have you dealt with that particular question?
It's something that's interesting because most people who are chasing like a leaner body composition, essentially trying to lose body fat for health, wellness, and to feel good in their own skin and mostly feel good in their own clothes, not really feeling good naked. I think it's funny. It's like this tagline of "look good naked" gets thrown around in the fitness community, but the vast majority of people are actually just trying to look better in their clothes. You know, they don't actually get naked in front of all too many people, probably just their significant other, their spouse, and that person generally, accepts them for who they are, but they want to feel confident when they're around other people, and they're generally clothed in those instances. How lean is lean enough? It's I encounter a lot of people in the training, health, and fitness space, and there's never really lean enough for so many of those individuals. It's like you start to see body fat come off your body. You learn the process of what it means to actually like manipulate your training and your nutrition. You're like, oh, I can control this thing that is body composition, and it just becomes this like never ending process of like, how far can I push it? So to answer the question, it's like, well, let's think about the context that you're in. And, lean enough is a threshold where when you go beyond it for whoever the person is, you start to see either small or sizable diminishing returns to quality of life is kind of how I look at it. And that you have to like answer that question for each person. Somebody who's, I'm trying to look better in my clothes. I'm trying to still enjoy my social life. I want to have meals with my kids out and my family out. So let's take that person as an example. That person shouldn't be chasing 10% body fat. Because to get to 10% body fat, they're going to have to do outsized, behaviors that are going to take away from some of those other things that are really valuable to them. They're not going to feel like they can go out, or they're not going to be able to go out and have pizza once a week and go out and get burgers with their kids twice a week and, order takeout or something like that, which fits the convenience of their lifestyle very well, and still manage to get this 10% body fat. So they're going to start cutting those things out. They're going to start to become more and more disciplined. They're going to start to become more and more regimented with their nutrition. And then that's going to cut into quality of life. And now they're going to feel isolated. They're going to feel distance from their family. And they're going to probably be excited about the fact that they're like seeing changes in their body. But then 3, 4, 6 months, 10 months later, they're going to be like, man, what's the point of this? Like the people I want to be close to, the people I want to share my life with, that I'm like really trying to connect with, they don't care that I'm 10% body fat. They don't care that I have visible abs. They care that I'm not showing up to the thing, or when we go out to burgers, like I'm not getting a shake with them. I'm like, the boring dad that's doing this thing or whatever. Meanwhile, you've got the person who's really into, fitness. They surround they make their life about it, right? And they're like, it seems more appropriate for that person to chase low body fat percentage. But then years into that process, they're like, okay, I want to be sub 10% body fat. And they're holding this for years and years and years. And then they realize they're like, I don't even have an identity that's not, a lean physique. Who am I as a person if I'm not chiseled, shredded abs? Like maybe they're chasing it for the wrong reason. It's a super long-winded answer, but you certainly cannot answer that question as a blanket statement. It's just like there's a point at which chasing leanness is literally the only upside is that you're more lean. You do not get any more quality of life or health benefits beyond a certain point.
I love the example that you gave about the family aspect, where it starts to conflict with the whole point of being a family, enjoying those fun foods. Something that I appreciate about about you, another guest that's been on the pod, Don Saladino, he'll like take his kids out to pizza and stuff like that. And I feel like it obviously conflicts with the image, right? Where you have to eat clean all the time. Otherwise, you can't beat a certain body fat percentage. And I've been through those situations where I look in the mirror and I just don't like what I see, even when my performance is high, even when my diet is on point, and it just never feels like I'm where I want to be. Something I've heard you talk about in the past is kind of tethering the outcome, and this personally helped me, tethering the outcome to more performance based. And your style of training and the programs that you put out, in my view, align with that. Where for me, all due respect to you and CrossFit, I had done it for a couple of years, but I really just felt like I was using metaphor of like I was throwing my body at the floor or throwing it at the wall, like kind of just, it was a lot for me. I got stronger, I got fitter, but the whole concept just became a lot. And then you see guys like yourself who have this insane performance level and this incredible physique. I learned to tether my mindset to my performance. And you kind of have shared some insight over the years about how you've gone through a similar trajectory, which is shocking that you didn't really like what you saw in the mirror. How has that journey been for you? And maybe you could share some insight to someone who's struggling with those same issues.
There's a lot of things that people approach fitness for, but there's one side of it. People approach fitness with a body composition, physical, physical look, aesthetic perspective. Like, I'm here to change the way I look. Then there's people that approach fitness with I'm here to improve and change the way I perform. I want to get stronger. I want to build my cardio. I want to get better at CrossFit. I mean, this was a big thing in the CrossFit community. It was like, well, I'm just here to thruster more weight, do more burpees, do more pull-ups, go faster. Then there's people that are here for like the strength and health benefits. I would kind of put that more on the performance side of things. So it's like, okay, Are you all in on performance? Are you all in on strength? Are you all in on health? Or are you all in on body composition and aesthetics? And since I have kind of pushed either side of that to the extreme, I have felt the disconnect at some point of neglecting the other side of the coin, being all in on body composition, making all the choices in the gym and all the choices in the kitchen to make my body look a particular way. Over time, that became it felt very hollow because I realized like there's no end in sight. Like I can always nitpick and be like, there's something I don't like about my body. I'm going to be critical of it, and I'm always going to be chasing more. And in the process, I see the things that I used to feel good and proud about, like my strength and my cardiovascular performance and my just ability to do stuff and have energy, like that becomes diminished. So you're like, okay, at the expense of all my performance, I got this great body composition, and here I am still nitpicking that it's not great. Now flip the other side of that. It's like in CrossFit, I was very fit. And yet every day it was like, I got to get fitter. I got to get fitter. It's like there was no end in sight. And when you push that to the extreme, that side of the coin to the extreme, then there's trade-offs as well. There's, like you said, you kind of feel like you're just throwing yourself at the wall and at the floor. It becomes a little bit overwhelming to your joints maybe, or to your, to your energy levels. It's just sort of taxing. It feels very difficult. I talk about burnout, people throwing shade at me where it's like, well, dude, of course you're going to feel burnout. And of course you're going to feel all this like low energy and libido when you're dieting super hard because you're pushing the extreme. My extremes are here. Another person's extremes might be further towards the middle, but they're still pushing more than is necessary for them in one direction or the other. So it's like, I'm all in on health and performance. Yeah, you might not be competing at the CrossFit Games, but for you, you're pushing yourself in the gym each day to get stronger, to go faster, to hit the high intensity workouts because you're trying to perform better. And as a result, you're not feeling great, and your body's not looking the way you want it to look because you're inflamed, you're tired, you're under recovered, your nutrition's a little bit sloppy because you're just like, it doesn't matter, I just need to eat to perform, and I'm just going to go and lift heavier and harder. You're not taking a close look at what you're fueling your body with, the quality of your nutrients, the quantity of your nutrients. So all of that has led me to, I believe that and the tagline for functional bodybuilding is look good, move well. It's like, how well are you blending those two together? Are you balancing performance and aesthetics? And you may lean into one side more than the other for a period of time, but one of the best antidotes to feeling really overly consumed with performance is to say, okay, I'm going to take a bit of a step back on performance, and I'm going to focus on some of these other qualities of, eating right, changing my body composition, lowering inflammation, etc. Right? So it's like, if I've gone too far this way, maybe I need to bring some of this back. And I think you ask the question more from like a body image standpoint. It's like, well, when I've gotten too far down the road of trying to optimize for body composition, I will use performance and focusing on performance metrics as a way and a tool to sort of drag me out of that. It's like, okay, if I had to do everything I could today to start lifting heavier in the gym, to start feeling myself get stronger again, what would I do? I would start to eat more. I would start to, lower my activity level a little bit. I would start to change my energy balance equation so that now I'm feeling better recovered and I'm having the fuel to go into the gym and lift harder. That's saved me in a number of different instances. And it's also a guiding principle for how I would set up somebody who I'm coaching to be like, okay, what's the balance that you should be having right now? And it's okay, like I said, to swing one side or the other for a period of time, but don't hang out there forever because you will run into, those diminishing returns.
Sometimes you need to hear things in more than one context for it to make sense. You just said energy balance equation, and my mind was jumping from philosophical to physical, and you talked about it as a guiding principle. Obviously, I understand it from a caloric perspective. The way you just, and in the context you just used it, I can see myself playing with this idea in so many different varieties. So thank you for sharing that, because I think the audience will get a lot out of it, where they could start to shift and say, maybe I'm too far on one side and I need to reassess my energy balance equation in order to maybe bring it back to the other side. And, we could talk about body image this whole time, but I think that there's a lot in what you just shared, and kind of shifting gears. I'm very curious about your mindset as a professional athlete when you were in the CrossFit Games, and how you mentally prepared, physically prepared, not from like a training split perspective, but getting your mind on point in order to perform. There have been some really spectacular humans that have come on this show, from Gunnar Peterson to Mark Megna, Don, yourself now, and these individuals have been surrounded by elite performers. And I've posed the question to them, and I'm going to pose it to you because I love to hear the feedback. What's it like in that kind of environment where the stakes are high and you're surrounded by the best of the best? How have you primed your mind for that type of environment?
From 2010 to 2016, which were like my years of competitive fitness, they happened to coincide with the rapid growth of short form social media. So Instagram and video, like the video wave of Instagram, once it kind of evolved past just photographs, we started to see a lot more videos pop up, and training content became something that you saw a lot of, particularly in the CrossFit space. Now it's all different types of fitness content is out there, but there was a lot of CrossFit content, and a lot of the competitive fitness athletes were posting content. And so I was learning how to be an athlete in a sport where I was not training in isolation. I was basically training against my competitors almost every day of the year, but inside the walls of my gym. So I was like seeing firsthand people that I trained to try and beat, like they're posting their highlight reels of their successes, on Instagram, on social media, to grow their profiles, to grow their brands, to hopefully monetize it or some, get something out of it. But what that meant was like, the five guys that I was competing against in CrossFit, I got to see them PRing things on a routine basis. And it was always like, oh my gosh, everyone around me is getting better. I got to get better. So this was a very hard thing to navigate as an athlete, because it created like a level of stress and anxiety that ultimately was something I didn't love. I came to dislike about the sport and how I was engaged in it, and like I couldn't really handle how mentally taxing it was to always feel like I was seeing my competitors at their best on social media, and that I had to like figure out how to be better than them all the time, which helped me to develop a better, like a strategy for like how to be sustainable in the sport and to get the best out of myself without taking too much of the anxiety and the stress on of like seeing the competition day in and day out. Right. Compare that to like the days before social media and the days before media was like all up in, like you would go to training camp and you would train for 3 to 4 months in the off season, and you would just put together a plan and execute. And you never knew what your competition was doing until you showed up on the pitch or at the event. And then you were like, okay, this is how I did. How was my preparation? And then you take that information from the event and you go back to your home, and then you train for another 3 to 4 months on your own and put together a plan, and you just execute. And that's what really makes people get the most out of themselves as athletes is when you create a plan, you go and execute, and you don't let outside influences, you don't let what the other team is doing impact what you're doing. And it's easy to say when you're not seeing daily social media, clips of your opponents crushing it, right? So that was something that I had to learn firsthand, and it really helped me to identify that long-term plans that you execute on day to day with consistency and with high levels of effort, but not maximal levels of effort, is what ultimately yields the best results. And in my first few years of CrossFit sport, I overdid it a lot. I was always coming to the gym and trying to set PRs. I was always coming to the gym and trying to, give everything I had each day, because I felt like each day was what mattered. And I was going to win. I was going to win my ticket to the CrossFit Games by winning the day. What I learned over the years was that you don't win your ticket to the CrossFit Games by winning this week. You win your ticket to the CrossFit Games by putting weeks and weeks and months of great training, not, excellent, perfect training, but great training together without wavering from your plan. And that was just really like that's the mindset that I had to put myself in towards the end of my career, which was today I'm waking up. I know what I need to go do. I've stacked several hundred, if not close to 1,000 of these over the past 5 years. And because I've done that so consistently, I continue to make progress and put myself in the best position to win. I'm not going to, set the PR today. I'm not going to have the best workout of my life today. I might, but it's not the goal. The goal is to just go in and keep executing. The 350 days a year taught me the power of habit, the power of consistency, which is what has allowed me to put such a great emphasis on that with coaching clients and coaching people at all levels of fitness. And you just define what those habits look like for each person that are doable enough and maybe just beyond what's comfortable for them, but not so far beyond what's comfortable for them that they, in other words, like blow their whole wad on the first day of the first week. Now, to flip that to like competition day, my approach was I really had to do everything I could to block out the noise and the pressure that I felt from the people around me. There's so many unique types of athletes out there. We all responded differently to the stimulus that we were given in a workout. At 5'10", doing 150 wall balls and pull-ups, I was going to have a very different feeling than the guy that was 6 foot doing the same workout. Then the guy that's 5'6", doing burpees and power cleans, they were going to feel a lot different than I was doing burpees and power cleans, just by the nature of like their sport background, their size, their limb lengths, etc. So if I was constantly racing against, these different types of athletes, I might be holding myself back because I'm going faster on wall balls than the guy that's got to squat 2 more inches every single time they squat, right? Or, hey, I might be trying to keep up with the guy that's got shorter limb lengths and can go way faster than me on burpees because they're 5'6" and they weigh 10 pounds less than me. And if I did that in those instances and I tried to compete against the people next to me, I would have not run my best race. And so, but it's so easy to do that when you're in the heat of a competition or you're standing next to the person. So the competitive side of it, the day of competition, was a lesson in like, run your own race. Try not in the moment to compare yourself to others. The lesson of the 350 days out of the year was, consistency, habits, and routine, and don't try and win it all in one go. Those are kind of like the two ways the differences in the approach and the lessons that I learned. over my years competing. And I believe that those are like just such valuable takeaways for everybody. It's, running your own race for sure. Felt that so much in the heat of competition. And then, habit stacking and consistency was a thing that was the biggest lesson from, 7, 8 years of consistent training to try and achieve the best physical performance that I could in my final year of competing.
The lessons that you're sharing in the context that you're sharing are so actionable for people to understand right now how they can audit their own life and assess where they're unnecessarily competing against others rather than with themselves in these unnecessary circumstances. And it's preventing performance optimization because you're focused on the wrong things. And it sounds like once you were able to assess the right factors and not get distracted by the guy who weighs less than you or the guy who's taller than you or shorter than you, you were focused on your performance and in turn present and engaged in your own words, running your best race. From a mindset perspective, and just as someone who's fascinated by these particular concepts, there's always these themes, right? Presence, consistency, power of habit, routine, compounding. At a high level, when someone asks, how do I get fit? And then the answers or those strategies, that person goes back and is maybe a little bit discouraged because it's like they don't fully understand. But you've outlined just now how it's not the one workout that you PR on that random day or that you go in every day trying to PR that makes you the athlete. It's understanding the long game and being able to show up every single day and how you've done that and the performance and the results that have obviously led you to where you are as at least from my perspective, a prominent face for CrossFit and a positive influence in that result, largely because of the adaptation. My natural next step from CrossFit was functional bodybuilding through Jay Marinak. I don't know if you know him, JTM_fit.
For sure.
And I did his programs, and they have very similar principles to yours, where they adapt the barbells, the kettlebells, the CrossFit skills-based approach, but with a horizontal bodybuilding structure.
Mm-hmm.
And some Metcons, but not really with the same kind of approach as CrossFit WODs. The next thing I want to ask you is, and I think you kind of outlined it, how has your experience as a professional CrossFitter informed your coaching style?
My first 9 years as a fitness coach coincided with my first 9 years as a competitive CrossFit athlete. They were just these parallel journeys that were happening. So I was constantly finding ways to inform my coaching career through my competitive experience. On the surface, that's potentially a flawed process. You wouldn't go and do competitive powerlifting and try and lift the heaviest weights in the world and then say, okay, I'm going to take those principles and then go and strength train, my 60 and 70-year-old, older clientele, right? It's like, well, they don't want the same thing over here. Oddly enough, it didn't feel as different when it was like I'm doing competitive CrossFit and then I'm running a CrossFit gym and we do CrossFit in the gym. It's like, oh, they're kind of the same. Many of us, myself included, made the mistake of kind of blending these things together. And I think what I learned firsthand was how flawed that process is, how flawed that thinking is. It's like competitive sport and fitness for general population are very different, and they need to be seen as different. And it's not always just the intensity level. It's not like, well, we all like competitive athletes and then Gen Pop are all doing the same thing. It's just at a different scale of intensity. No, it could be like they're doing A and you're doing B, not you're doing A prime and you're doing A, beta. It's like they're different categories often. There's plenty of overlap, but they're different categories often. But for those 9 years, I was very much a student of like, well, what am I learning about movement? What am I learning about dose response at a competitive high performance level? And how can I translate that to, clients in the gym? And it's like a simple example is like, okay, we had this like really intense CrossFit workout at the competition that had like super heavy lunges and then lots of muscle ups and double unders. So it was like a cardiovascularly fatigued single leg strength requirement with an advanced upper body pulling exercise. So it's like movement combinations. I know what the feeling of that is like. How can I translate that to general population or people I'm coaching? It's like, well, I want people to get strong unilaterally. So I'm going to pick a controlled movement that is scalable or approachable for a lot of people. We're going to do, split squat. And we're going to do it at tempo. We're going to do it, with a rep range that's appropriate. Cool. We're going to give them a 30-second break, and then they're going to go and do a max set of strict pull-ups with their, appropriate level of assistance or added resistance. Weighted pull-up, banded pull-up, ring row, something like that. And then they're going to rest 30 seconds, and they're going to go do a cardiovascular effort on a bike because the double under skill doesn't really always translate well to people who don't have that skill. They can't really get the same feeling out of doing like single jump ropes. So they get on a bike and they bike for 60 seconds at a high aerobic effort and then they rest. Okay, cool. So that was an example of learning something in a competitive landscape with high performance in skilled movements at maximal intensity and then bringing it down to the level of what my customer might get value from in a, weight training, body weight, and cardiovascular combined exercise scenario. So that circuit was built out of my experience of doing the thing at the highest level, scaled highest for athletes, etc. The other thing I think that I got from my competitive career and how it taught me in the, context of coaching is that intensity and reaching a certain level of intensity is critical for the body to change. I did it daily. Do I think people need to do it to that extreme or to that level daily? No, but there certainly needs to be a point at which you get uncomfortable in your fitness journey if you want to see change, right? And people might think like, well, that's not necessarily true because some people just need to go out for a walk. And I'm like, well, I think you're so far removed from being at the level of condition where a walk is going to move the needle for you. I can see it's understandable that like getting out and going for a walk or doing 3 sets of 10 push-ups could really smoke somebody, and my brother said something to me a couple years ago that really like, it was triggering, but it was also like just a fantastic reminder. He was like, your fitness and you've been in this so long that I think you really forget just how far certain people are on this end of the deconditioned spectrum.
Sure.
And it's true. And it's something that I try and pride myself on being like, I can connect to anybody at any level of fitness, but it's challenging and you haven't lived that and you haven't been in those shoes for maybe a long time or ever. And when you can't empathize and you can't really sympathize with somebody because you haven't been there, it becomes difficult to be a coach. And so that was something that I think I got to learn a bit more through, or it was something that I was forced to actively be a student of when I was in competitive fitness. It was seeing how I was constantly performing at this very high level. And then I'm just like, my brain starts to get warped into thinking like, well, that's just what everyone can do. And so I'm just going to like, but it's not. As a coach, it's like many fitness coaches are very good athletes or very high performers. Not all of them. and to be relatable and to actually give coaching and value to people that are on all ends of this fitness spectrum, you have to like really actively work on that. Like, let me really try and put myself in this person's shoes. Let me go and work hand in hand with somebody who's very deconditioned and really see, oh my gosh, yeah, like if we just do some step ups on a 12-inch box and we have them hold a plank, that is intense for them, right? I don't need to put the clock on them. I don't need to do 21:15:9 of any Metcon. I don't need to do any of that. I need to get them doing something that's a little uncomfortable, but within their realm of, ability, so that they can start stacking those habits, stacking those wins, building consistency, and doing what I did for 9 years in a sport. They need to do it for 9 years at this level. And it starts with low box step ups and holding planks. And a year from now, they're doing circuits of, bike, farmer's carry, and maybe, goblet squats. It's like, what does that look like? And don't get so far removed thinking like most people can do the crazy and not to like, JTM is Justin Marinek he's awesome, and he does some freakishly amazing physical feats and athletic moves on his page. And it's like, if he were to think that like this is what most people can do, that would be evidence of like a coach that's very far removed and disconnected from the. And I know he's not, but it's like that would be, an example of like, hey, you've gotten too deep into, fitness influencer territory where it's like now you just are disconnected from what most people need.
Like a year ago, I did this challenge where I did 1,018 pull-ups in about 4 hours. And we raised like 20 grand for an organization called the Friendship Circle that helps children who suffer from special needs. And did it by myself, did it like 5 rep EMOM until I hit the 1,018. Mm-hmm. And a few days later, I did 1,018 push-ups for the second time in my life. Just didn't really tell anyone about it. And I just had this a high performer like need to do what I do type of thing. And my body, my immunity, like everything suffered. Mm. And so as a result, I had to take like 2 weeks off. I hadn't taken weeks off in years. Mm-hmm. And that first workout in the gym, I remember you brought up thrusters. I was doing like a 3x12 thrusters, kettlebell thrusters with like 53s or maybe like 40s, something like that. Just getting back into it. And that first squat down, I was like, oh my God, like this is what someone must feel like, just scaled times 100 if they've never done a squat before. Mm-hmm. And I had lost all of that relativity because I hadn't really missed extended training time beyond like 2-3 days in years. All my empathy kind of got back into me where I was like, maybe I've lost that relativity and me sharing my message isn't as relatable as I think it is. And so that was a humbling lesson on many fronts because you go from doing thousands of reps in like a 4 or 5 day span, but even just for like the message portion, like 1,000+ reps in one session, no matter how noble the cause, doesn't appear as relatable. Even though at the event people had done their first pull-up or more pull-ups than they'd ever done, like it was very nice, it still was just one of those moments where it's like, all right, ego check, time to reassess and maybe audit myself on that front.
We host these workouts with our friends, like, so our kids are in kind of kindergarten, first grade age range. And so we've kind of, we have a lot of new parent friends that are in our circle, and they're not all fitness people. My wife and I, our community of friends a decade ago was all fitness people. It was people we met through the gym. It was people that were clients. So we were always around fit people. We were going on vacations with our fit friends. We were doing workouts on the beach with our fit friends, right? Just a different. Now it's like we have people that desire to be in shape, but they maybe haven't done stuff in a while. And we invite people into the gym every weekend to do workouts together. This weekend, I have this. There was a fundraiser at the school. I auctioned off basically like a workout with me and a handful of parents that are ready to, they want to engage, but they haven't done anything, are coming in. So it's like I've got 7 first-time worker outers with functional bodybuilding coming on Sunday. And it's like surrounding myself with that has been just a really powerful reminder of like, look, this thing is we're all on different levels here. And I want to stay connected to where people's fitness can be on the whole spectrum. I don't want to just be catering to, people who even know what a thruster is. It's like, what the hell is that, right?
That's awesome. I would have probably put my name in the raffle for that too, just for the record.
Right on.
So a couple more questions for you here. I heard you talk about this recently on your podcast, Look Good, Move Well. And I kind of just want to briefly have the conversation about how AI overlaps with fitness. I'm a partial to it. I am a full-time attorney in the technology industry. And at a high level, I just want to understand. I'll also point people to that episode of the podcast so they can go check it out. But at a high level, I'd love to have a quick back and forth with you about what you think about the role of artificial intelligence within the fitness industry.
I know that artificial intelligence is going to impact things that we have no idea. I can't even imagine what AI tools will be able to replicate, replace, and do better than human interaction yet. But I assume that there are going to be many things that I have blind spots to. My understanding today and what I believe today is that within fitness coaching or within coaching, I think there's going to continue to be a role for human connection, and that AI will basically take more and more of the roles off the coach's plate that actually stand in the way of building better connection with clients. So, I have to write fitness programs for people. I have to evaluate and look at data and metrics for my clients to better understand how they're progressing so that I can have a conversation with them, about, hey, you're doing a great job. Let's keep the motivation up, keep you inspired. Or, hey, something looks like it's not working the way we had intended to. How are you doing? What's a barrier? What's an obstacle? Like, that's the coaching, is to actually either continue to, like, you give feedback to clients to help keep them inspired and motivated. You give feedback to clients to point out where there are, where there seem to be obstacles, and then you work with them to overcome those obstacles through conversations, through providing resources, all of that. Could an AI tool do that for me at some point? Perhaps. But what an AI tool could do now is it can, write mediocre programs. Those will get better. There will be an AI tool that writes Marcus Philly functional bodybuilding programs better than I can write them at some point in the future, because it understands everything that I know at any given point, plus all the data inputs from a client to really optimize it. If they could do that in the blink of an eye, guess what? That saves me time so that I can go and make those connections with the client much better. I can actually respond to the messages. I can talk to them. I can send them voice memos. I can, be more available to them when the obstacles come up, when the real life scenario presents that they need an answer to, and they need a human touch. And the same goes for, basically compiling nutrition, or not nutrition, but just general data that's coming in from them. What does your data look like for the past month? AI tool compiles it all, gives me a report. Okay, this is what I see is happening. Let me interpret it, and then we can have a conversation about it. So right now, it's not doing all of that. It's doing some of those things. I think that it will also allow coaches to be less like the in-person coach. I think there's going to be, computer vision stuff that gets developed where you can really have a coach there with you, even when you're working out in your home, which is going to provide people a lot more convenience. They're going to start to miss the social connection of going to a facility. But in the instance where they want to work out at home and they want somebody to actually coach them up on their movement, they put a camera on them, and AI is going to be able to give them technique tips. It's going to help them understand where their technique is off. It's going to give them cues. It's going to help them basically navigate movement without a personal trainer standing next to them. And I guess I already touched on it just now, but now that I say it, it's like AI is going to probably in the fitness industry get people craving more personal connection and group live, training, because it'll become so easy to like get the programs, get the nutrition, get the coaching all online, all digitally, all, delivered to you in your home. And people will be in love with that for a period of time, just like kind of like COVID, where they were forced to do it, but now they're going to be drawn to it because AI is making it so affordable and so available. And then after a period of time, they're going to be like, oh, I don't really like doing fitness by myself anymore. I want to go to a gym and do it more. I want to be around people. I want to join the group fitness class. I want to get into the big box and just feel the vibes, right? So that happened with COVID as well. So those are, I guess, some areas where I see AI playing a role.
AI can play within program design, metric assessment, high level coaching, customized to your particular body type or whoever that individual is. And then here we are on the other side where like no matter how great AI is, it will never be able to do the work for you.
That's real too.
That is just something that no one can escape, right? If a body has to be earned, and no matter how good the tools are, you still have to show up and do the work or put down the donut kind of thing.
Yeah. Until medical AI technology changes that too, and gene therapy changes that too. So we don't know, there could be a day where you take an injection and you got some muscle. I don't know, we're not so sure, but that day is probably far off. And I still think that there's character building qualities of the fitness pursuit that, you won't be able to replace with anything that's an immediate, something immediate. I could see fit bodies out there that got there through science, who don't get to experience the benefits of having learned discipline, having learned, hard work, having learned, getting through adversity, which then impacts the quality of life. So anyway, I agree. And I'm also open to the idea that like, maybe there will be a day where a fit body doesn't have to be earned. Maybe you pay for it, so you earn it in some other way. Like, hey, you pay for an expensive gene therapy. It's like, well, you worked hard somewhere to get the money to do the thing. You didn't lift, the weights, but I don't know.
Interesting. It definitely is going to be an interesting unfolding to see what type of technology, resources, and infrastructure are put in place to help people maybe reach their health goals organically or otherwise. Future of content creation. Where do you see it going? What's your strategy?
The future of content creation, I think, it's like clothing styles, right? People are in on something until it becomes what they see all around them. And then they want to differentiate. They want something new. They want to stand out. And so they come in waves. And content creation is always going to be about providing value to people, and through a combination of, whether it's tools and tips that will help them in life, through humor, entertainment, if that's what they're seeking, right? There's like lots of ways to provide value to people through content creation. but the form of it will continue to evolve. Like we're in a short form, content creation period of time that looks a particular way now, but it could very well look like everything's moving to long form pretty soon because people are tired of seeing 30-second clips of tips that they don't use. And they want to go and invest longer periods of time into content that they can learn and then really embrace and then go and make change in their life. It's going to require being a student of content creation to learn patterns, learn what the audience is looking for, and continue to deliver something that people want to pay attention to. So if anything that I've learned over the past 10 plus years of making content is that you have to be able to adapt and be data driven when it comes to it. It's like what performs well. There's a reason it performed well. There's a reason it didn't perform well. Be a student of that. Understand what worked and what didn't of your content. Being somebody who's like, oh, the algorithm changed. The algorithm hates me. It's like the algorithm equals people's attention. That's it. And so if you want to get someone's attention, you have to give them what they're looking for. And the evidence is out there to go and figure out.
Ladies and gentlemen, Mr. Marcus Philly, please let the audience know where they can keep up with your journey.
If they're not following me already on social media channels, then that would be a great place to start. At Marcus Philly. Yeah, go give me a follow on Instagram, TikTok, YouTube, all of the above.
Appreciate your time, sir. Thank you so much. This was everything I hoped it'd be and more.
Thanks, Jonathan. I appreciate the invitation to come and talk, and questions were awesome and the conversation flowed. So always what I hope to get out of podcasts.